Alrighty guys, welcome back for more Path of Exile. So last time we left off, we talked about doing the Maven mechanic. And while we did some of the mechanics to actually throw it in here and select the Maven, there are a lot more other Maven invitations that you can do. Now you don't have to do all of these as soon as you start progressing in the game, as some of these can be quite difficult, especially the Feared. Now, the thing is the reason why I show you guys how to do it is so you can get some of your Atlas points. Now, in order to get some of the Watchstones as well, you will have to defeat harder bosses. So, for the most part, I would say in terms of the Maven invitations, there are several different ones, and these will also give you a point. However, these are a little bit more difficult to do, and on top of that, doing the Maven with the Feared, that is a very, very difficult thing to do. So what I really recommend you guys to do is kind of just do them so you get some of the points on the Atlas over here, but you don't have to do any of these other invitations yet. You can do them, and kind of optional for the most part, but you definitely want to be able to get all of your Watchstones so you can increase the tier of the maps. So if you are doing the Maven, eventually you'll collect enough of these splinters and you can actually fight her. However, this is going to be a little bit more difficult. So save that, I would say, for later. It's much easier to progress on the map. Now, pretty much, once you've done 115 maps, what is the next kind of goal here? Because it is part of the progression in terms of not only on like the free battle pass of Path of Exile that will give you some extra rewards, and some of these can be tied to the certain challenges to get additional free rewards through the cosmetics. Now, as far as getting the other Watchstones, because I feel like that's the more important thing, and in terms of the maps, there are special maps that you may have to buy from other players to get completed. I'm still kind of working on going over a guide for all of the maps, because some of the maps in Path of Exile aren't going to be super straightforward. They actually have like special mechanics, which I will be making videos on. I just recently dropped a video that goes over the hollowed ground map, which kind of looks like a little pumpkin head. It's a little bit different, and there are certain maps where they're just not going to be kill all the enemies, then you go into a room and you fight a boss. Some of them, they're special things, and I will go over those. But those are going to be like separate videos. What I really think is more important is actually to fight two of like the endgame bosses, which are going to be the Elder as well as the Shaper. There's also Cirrus, but we're mainly going to be focusing this video on doing Shaper. So, starting right off, there are several Guardians. So you might have seen some of these maps drop, or if you go to Kyrak, sometimes if you go to the Atlas mission, they can also appear over here. Now, these maps are going to be a little bit different in terms of the boss. The map is pretty much the same. You'll see the map itself, you just do it and you get to the boss. But the boss fight is actually going to be a lot more difficult. There are mechanics on each one. So what I'm going to do is I've collected all these maps. You can buy these off of other players too. You can get them just as drops. They're anywhere from 10 to 15 Chaos Orbs a piece. It can vary through time. But if you are doing these maps, make sure you're not making them difficult. Like, don't put a Orb of Alchemy on them, or just run them white if it's your very first time, as some of these boss modifiers can make it way more difficult. So let's go ahead and go in, and I'll show you guys how to defeat these bosses, as there is a special mechanic to each one. And let's go ahead and start off with the Chimera. So I'm just going to go cut to the boss, and I'll show you guys all the boss fights, and then we'll also do a Shaper. After you defeat a boss, there's going to be a little part that drops, and you have to collect it. You have to collect all 4 of these to fight the super boss, which we will kind of do in a second here. So let's go ahead and do the Chimera. So now we are at the boss. I have Delirium up, so I'm just going to close it so it doesn't make it more difficult. But we also have Maven enabled. We probably should not have this enabled. So basically, this boss fight, he'll throw up a red circle. Don't stand in it. We actually are doing, I think, too much damage to the boss. Normally, these little circles won't be here, but we have the Maven enabled, so there might be a little bit more difficulty here, but I think we can handle it. So, how this boss fight mechanic works, and the thing that's most important is, once he disappears, you're going to have to walk through all of these smoke clouds till he reappears. That's the most important thing, as that will be what makes him deal an insane amount of damage. And after certain phases, he will disappear. I think our damage is actually too high to show off the mechanics fully. But the main thing with him is, if you don't see him, just make sure you're moving. He can reappear, and he'll do kind of like a slam attack. He's not too difficult. The only thing you got to watch out for, you see how there's a red circle? Just move outside. That is what I really want to show you. And when there are these little clouds, I got lucky the first time, and I revealed him. There's going to be several clouds, and until you reveal him, he will not come out, and he will be able to still damage you. But there also will be these little moments where you get to refill your flash charges by killing other enemies here. These enemies don't really matter, but Chimera is not too difficult. So he's doing his attack right there. See that circle? Get out of it. That's the really only difficult part, and we have another map the drop. But the most important thing is pick up the fragment of the Chimera. This is very important. So we have the fragment of the Chimera. We got to do all of these, and each one of these is going to drop a part. But let's go ahead and do the Hydra next. But again, with the Chimera, the only thing you have to watch out for is when he does his little thing where he puts up a bunch of smoke clouds. You have to walk through them. I know it seems a little bit scary and it's kind of difficult. I would say, is probably the second hardest. The hardest for most people is going to be the Minotaur, but it's not going to be too bad since we're ranged. It's only really bad for if you're playing melee. But let's go ahead and do the Hydra next. Just as a note, do not select the Maven enable. It makes these fights much harder. I know for the very first one, I had it enabled. It makes her appear, and she might buff the boss. She might give them extra regen, and there's going to be more like other things in the map that will make it a little bit harder. So do not select this. Selecting this is totally fine though if you want to have like the searing effect. But like as far as any of the Eldritch modifiers, don't enable any of these ones where it says like the boss will do like more damage or the boss gains something. That will make it really, really difficult. So my suggestion is you can enable like the mechanic, but in terms of little altars to click on them to make the boss difficult, do not do that, and definitely don't do the Maven, especially for your very first time. Although it will start working towards the Formed, which is like another Maven invitation, where you have to have the Maven watch you kill Hydra, Minotaur, and Phoenix, and there's another special fight that you can do that will give you more Atlas points. However, if it's your first time, just make sure you're able to complete them. That's the more important thing. We'll talk more about gear and upgrades. I actually have a lot more upgrades to talk about, but I didn't really want to start off the video with just a bunch of talking. I mean, look at this. I've got another like almost 1,500 Chaos Orbs. I've got lots of upgrades to show off, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later, as this video I just want to mainly focus in on getting the Guardians done, because it's a big part of the progression, and it's a way for you guys to see one of the cooler bosses in the game. But yeah, let's go ahead and do the next one, which, by the way, these don't matter in which order you do them in. I'm just doing them in whatever order, but I will definitely say Minotaur is arguably the hardest. Alright, coming up to the end of this area, we're going to be fighting the Hydra. So I'm going to resummon my golem because I guess he died. So the Hydra is a ranged one, but the main thing that you want to watch out for are all the balls that come out. But since we have a lot of movement speed, it shouldn't be too difficult to not get hit by these. Sometimes he'll go away for a second and he'll shoot up a bunch of projectiles to kind of like move in a zigzag. But ideally you just don't get hit by his balls, and it's not too bad. Yeah, we're just bob and weaving, not getting hit by the balls, and Hydra is gone. Honestly, getting these shrines really helps out for extra damage as well. But that's really the only like important thing with the Hydra, is not get hit by the balls. There's a lot of projectiles. Sometimes you might get hit by them. And another thing I want to give you guys as a bonus tip is right before you enter the boss, like at the exit right here. This is our reward, so let's go pick these up. So what I would recommend you guys to do is put a portal before you go in. This way you can reset if you do happen to die or you need to go back and refill your flasks up. Like right now, my damage is so good I don't really need it. But if it's your first time, don't feel bad if you die to any of these bosses, by the way. I'd recommend, if you want to, drop your movement speed flask and then throw in a life flask in case you need it, because there's some moments where you may want to be able to pop a heal because there's just so many projectiles and you get hit by it. But make sure, again, you pick up the fragment, and that is the second part of the puzzle. There's 4 pieces. We're going to collect all 4 of them, and we'll do the Phoenix next. Alright, coming up to the Phoenix. Let's go ahead and enter it in over here. I'm not going to activate. Why is there an essence in here? So, the only thing that's important when he does that move, when he stops moving, you want to move as far away as possible from him. I'm going to clear out this essence. It's just in the way. It's not the common that like you get another like thing in here, but I want to not have visual clutter. Okay, so ideally you stand behind. Oh, he's almost dead already. Okay, I want to show you guys one of his attacks here. So when he does that, when he puts his swords in his ground, that's when you want to stay as far away as possible from him. Ideally, you just kind of stand behind him. He's not really that difficult if you're ranged, but it's specifically when he puts his swords in the ground. He has an attack also that just goes forward, but I mean, it is a little bit different. I know right now my damage is pretty good, but we're going to get even more insane damage very soon, and I didn't want to go ahead and equip all my insane gear, which I'll show you guys how to, like, you know, acquire. But the thing is that I wouldn't have been able to show you the mechanic because I might like one-shot it. But these bosses are different, and they are important because for the very first time that you fight them, it might take a little bit, but if you're if you've been following this build, I haven't even changed any of my items, I believe, since the last time we played at all. I have a lot of upgrades that I want to talk about, but I haven't equipped them because, one, I want it to be like easy to go into, and some of these crafts, they will take almost dedicated videos to go into, or if you want to just buy them yourself, I'll tell you exactly what to get. But like I said, I haven't even upgraded. I'm still using the exact same stuff. We got lots of awesome upgrades coming up very, very soon. But that is the Phoenix, and remember to grab the part because we're going to do the last one. This one is actually the hardest one. All right, coming up to the Minotaur. So this one is actually super difficult. I'm going to make a portal before it. The reason why is because he hits for physical, and well, as an evasion-based character, you're not going to have that much armor to really deal with it. So important thing, these things at certain intervals will go ahead and actually make a line. If you cross the line while they're up, you will get shot. Here's the Minotaur. When he dives into the ground, like head first like a diver, you want to move out of the way. Ideally, you want to stand most of the time behind him. So he dived into the ground, we just got to move. Another thing is that you may see these falling rocks happen when he slams the ground. You don't want to stand in those. Those do massive physical damage. You can see we just got hit by shock. That's going to make us take a lot more damage. But we have good enough damage to the point where we can kill him relatively easy. So you see how he just dived into the ground? Ideally, he tries to go for our little ice golem buddy. But yeah, it's pretty easy at this point, especially with Vengeance Cascader damage is kind of through the roof. But yeah, if you do walk through it, and I walk through it, the thing is that you're only going to be shocked for a certain amount of time, but you also do get slowed. Just kind of move out of the way. The most important thing is when he goes into the ground, when he dives, when he comes up, you're probably going to be dead. Or if he just puts up his giant like hammer and tries to slam you, you're probably going to be dead. You basically have to dodge all of his abilities, but this build has an insane amount of movement speeds, and I've kind of explained it to you guys, so hopefully you guys won't get hit. But this one in particular is the hardest one, so if you do die to him, don't worry. He was not the easiest the first time I fought him too. He's definitely the hardest, but we're going to pick up the last piece, and then now we will have all 4 pieces, and we're going to put them inside of our map device and fight the Shaper. Alright, now that we've collected all 4 pieces, we're going to go put them in, and you actually do have to put these in this correct shape. You can't, I don't believe yet. You have to put them in this exact shape, otherwise it doesn't work. But it's pretty self-explanatory. It makes a little like a picture of a kind of a little circle like star thing. So we're gonna go in, and this we're gonna do the full thing because this boss fight, the map is a little bit different, and it is kind of random. And what I mean by kind of random is the bosses that you fight. So basically there's 4 corners. You have to kill 4 different bosses, and then you get to actually fight the main boss. So we're gonna go in here. It's a portal. These bosses aren't really like anything special though. A lot of these are map bosses that you probably have already fought before. They shouldn't be too difficult, but if you die during them, it's, well, you've only got 6 portals, so try not to die too much. But the Shaper is a little bit more of a challenge for sure. But the bosses that you get here can be random. So unfortunately we got this guy. Sometimes you get unlucky and you get one of those bosses that has a few different phases. This is kind of one where you can't just like insta him. You have to like damage him, and then he goes into the you can't kill me phase, and then he goes ahead and eats a heart. And then, but we got one of the bosses down, and there is, like I said, 4. It's basically all in the corners.
The hunt begins.
Try to move out of the way. Oof. Oof. He almost got us. This is another one of those bosses, unfortunately, where they've got phases. Not my favorite. If you ever need to go back for your flash charges, feel free to do so. Where'd you go? Okay. I have no idea where he went. Again, sometimes you get unlucky, and there are certain bosses that will just be annoying like that. Oh, there he is. I had no idea where he went, and it happens. But like I said, if you die during any of these, don't worry. But you can't keep on dying. You have a limit to how many times you can die. Go through the portal, and then now we are on the final one. And once we've killed all 4, there is a portal here, and we were going to go through the portal. Now, this is very important. You have to protect Zana. If she dies, it makes the fight infinitely worse. Also, you can drop your movement speed flask for a life loss. So ideally, you want to be behind him. He has a giant... His moves are basically a slam attack and a giant beam, and there are going to be these orbs that follow you. When the orbs are following you, get to the edge, because you don't want the orbs to be blowing up. So the yellow orbs, he's going to do a slam attack. You'll see by him disappearing in purple. That giant beam attack, by the way, does a decent amount of damage, so try not to get hit by it. But the white orbs, okay, the white orbs, you want them to follow you, but towards the edge. And then you want them to pop on the edge.
My mana is gone.
Oh, we weren't even hitting him, okay. So he's going to do a slam attack right there and move out of the way. Try to be careful when you summon your Ice Golem, because sometimes when you summon the Ice Golem, it can get you killed. And that's because it has a slower animation. So you gotta make sure she doesn't die. We want to pop all of these orbs, so once they're in that like little brighter phase, that is where they will actually pop. But you want to pop those on the edge, not in the center, because you want the center to be able to be your playground. You have those pop in the center, you're gonna have a bad time. So wait, let those just pop on the side, and then go back to attacking the Shaper. So when he disappears and you see that like a bunch of purple, that's when you want to move out of the way. So eventually, once he gets low, and by the way, you want to go as fast as possible during this time, because he does heal up. So now we got basically, or almost doing another map inside of this, and you want to be as fast as possible. You want to find the boss and kill the boss. Looks like it might be this way. A little bit of a maze here. Oh, that's another dead end. So we gotta go up. But some of these areas may look a little bit different. Especially the bosses, because that's kind of random in what you're fighting. As far as I'm aware of. And, okay, almost there. These shouldn't be like anything special. These are easy, easy. Okay. Uncreated. Get him down. She shouldn't be that much of a problem. Go through the portal. Now, in this phase, we will actually want to stand close to Zana when he shoots out a bunch of projectiles that are in a special like circle. And you'll also notice you can't pop portals here, but it's fine. So when Zana is doing this move right here, you want to stay inside. And the reason why is because those blue balls will hurt you. Sometimes he can be kind of cheeky and like right when you're like you think that you're chill, you're just in there. He's gonna do the slam attack now, and he gets a little bit faster. So remember, white orbs you want to pop on the edge. Oh, unfortunately that was bad, right there. Again, you want it on the edge. And during this phase, I mean, it's not that hard to protect Zana. You just kill whatever comes out. But she can actually die here. So don't let that happen. And another one of these orbs coming. You can overlap them too. Oh, he's doing his move, so you want to stand in here. And if you stand in here, you will take damage, by the way. Even though Zana has her red orb. The red orb that she provides only protects you from the blue balls. He's doing his slam attack right now. That slam attack will kill almost like most builds, by the way. So you have to dodge that. Unfortunately, I put that white orb in the middle. That made it way more difficult. But this boss fight is all a skill issue. There's people that will go in with like 1 HP and fight this boss. And they will successfully pull it off. And we got another warp out. So we are on the final phase. This is one of like the harder endgame bosses. He's relatively fair, I would say. There are some boss fights in this game that a lot of players don't like and feel like it's a little bit unfair. Maven's Memory Game is one of those where like it is a skill issue, but it's a very difficult skill issue. But Shaper, you'll be able, to eventually build up your confidence. The first time I fought him, especially when there's no like YouTube guides, I had no idea what was going on. Well, most people that fight him for the very first time, it doesn't really make too much sense in terms of like all of the mechanics for the first time, not dying to him, because you have to learn when there's a little bit of like purple that comes up, that's when he's doing his slam attack, which I kind of mentioned to you guys. So he's doing his beam. Ooh. Pop or heal. Ooh. See, now he has like a double. So you got two of them. So remember, again, don't get hit by the slam. You can get hit by the laser for a brief moment. As long as you're moving, usually you won't die to it. Unless you're walking all in the same line where it's hitting you. But again, detonate the white orbs on the edge of the map. He's doing a beam attack. Try to get my golem up. The reason why is because if he slams on the golem, it's great for us. But be kind of careful in holding perfectly still, because you have to try to keep your eye on Shaper, because he will pop beams and you may have to exit this for a little bit sometimes. That's because the white orbs come out and you don't want the orb to be under Zana or in the center of the map. Makes things a lot more difficult. There's a slam attack. He's almost gone, and we got him. And we'll get a favored map slot. And we also get a fragment of knowledge. So what this will allow us to do is fight the Elder and Shaper at the same time. So that was one of like the main endgame bosses. His name is the Shaper that we just killed, and he also dropped these boots. These boots are kind of outdated. There's an item that he can drop called Dying Sun that can be good. Also, just in case any of you guys have some questions about this item that drops, like all these items, like they look very special. They got this little space background. It looks kind of cool. Sometimes people do like to craft on these, and they like to try to get items off of these. So if you want to, you can list them for like anywhere from like 1 to 5 chaos, and sometimes they will sell regardless of what they are, because people just want the artwork for the background, and they're trying to craft something. Sometimes they actually want the Shaper base, but it kind of depends on what you get. What I like to do specifically is I like to pick up any of the shields, and I like to identify them to see if they have what's called mana socketed gems have increased mana reservation efficiency. If that rolls, there's a potential that they could be worth something. But I mean, some of these could be worth stuff. It kind of depends on your knowledge. Like I said, just like to pick up specifically all of the shields, and I like to see if there is any good mods that I'm aware of on them. But there's so many things to learn with PoE. But if you completed this, you have completed one of the like harder endgame bosses. So that is the Shaper, and he's really not that bad. And if you do fail, it's okay. Honestly, it happens. You know, like the first time I did Sirius, I had one portal left and I had to hit up a homie and I was like, hey, can you finish them for me? So if it's your first time, don't worry. Shaper and Cyrus are some endgame bosses that can be a little bit more difficult. As far as the build goes, I literally haven't changed the build since last time we played. So the only thing that would be different is I did level up one time, and I mean, I'll show you the skill tree, but the POB will be linked down below, the POB.IN, which is the new website that everyone's using. Yeah, it's great. Really good stuff. But I also want to briefly talk about upgrades, because the next part I will be using some different gear, and I'm going to briefly go over what I'm going to be doing. So, still running a 5-link cost breeze here. What I'm running is, right now I'm running the Mana Forged Arrows. This is brand new to Crucible. Mana Forged Arrows, I'm running Frenzy, Power Charge on Crit, Ice Shot, and Burning Arrow. So in addition to our Lightning Arrow, which is pretty much how I've been doing most of my damage, now you'll see that there is several skills that will activate. We're eventually going to go into a Mana Forged build where we have 2 separate 6-links. But right now, I've only got this bow. I mean, our whole build is basically... This was like basically a divine, I want to say, and then the rest of the stuff I basically crafted for relatively cheap. However, these gloves were kind of nice that we did get, but there's nothing that's too crazy. But I want to go eventually and get way better stuff. Now, if you want to get some better stuff, I'm going to be working on some crafting. A lot of stuff that I eventually will be doing is going to be crafted anyways. Most of the stuff that I would really recommend you guys just to buy the items. You can just look at the item and try to search for them. If you can, try to get as close as you can to it and get as much resistances as possible. You can see my resistances are almost perfect. Our chaos resistance is 72. It's close enough for chaos res for me at least. But I will eventually get 75 and everything. You can actually go beyond 75, and I also want to throw in determination eventually so we can just not die. The only thing that's really going to kill us for the most part is if we get a monster that has increased critical strike chance, and on top of that they hit a really nasty crit and it's physical. So in order to mitigate that, what we can do, and this is going like further in, again, I bought this thing for 2 divines, but you can also get another armor here, because I do want to run multiple 6 links, and that is because Mana Forged Arrows is absolutely amazing. And what we're also going to be doing is we're going to be, these are both works in progress. Everything right now is all a work in progress. I don't even have it ready yet, but I will eventually do it. So what I recommend you to do, it's kind of up to you what you want to do with Path of Exile. I can teach you how to craft, but at the end of the day, crafting sometimes can be way more expensive, and it's going to take you a lot of time. So I think for most players, I like to do the crafting because I think it's fun. But there are some people out there that really don't like randomness, and I don't blame you if you hate randomness either, because it's literally a chance at doing something, and it can take you hours and you get nothing. I mean, there are times where people spend days, weeks to build up an item, and then at the final step, oh well, there's a 10% chance to work, and then we didn't get it. That's legitimately Path of Exile. So I recommend you guys just keep on doing maps. If you need more currency, keep on doing maps. I think I still have 2 like invitations here to actually sell. These are like 160 chaos each. Just keep on doing maps and you'll get those invitations, and you'll be able to afford, this isn't really anything, you can get this in maybe like an hour, and that's at like the lower end of farming. So basically look for these specific stats on an item. If you are at the trade website, you want attacks have critical strike chance, and you can apply additional curse. What we're also going to do, someone actually crafted some resistances on here, but I want to actually craft something else on here. So what we're going to craft, and to get the craft, I don't actually have the craft, we actually have to get it. So this is kind of cool, so you guys get to see this. So we want to make, so we take physical damage taken as a different type of damage. So right now, if I hold Alt, we can see what prefixes and suffixes we have. So I want just flat additional physical damage reduction, which is a suffix. Now I got lucky that whoever made this has, you can see we have 3 prefixes, and we have currently 2 suffixes, so we can add an additional suffix. Now someone else already crafted the lightning and chaos res, so what we're going to do is we're going to craft the additional physical damage reduction on here. And then we are going to, I believe you can get up to 7% additional physical damage once we get, or we can get the physical damage taken as something else. 3% is pretty low. I could alternatively just slam it with an Exalt Orb and hope we get it. There's a few different options that you can go for, but I could look at any of the other suffixes that I would want. Let's go ahead and do that, because this is kind of a work in progress too. I mean, 3% physical damage reduction is still 3%. Physical damage is going to be pretty deadly for us, but there's also, I think you might be able to go up to 7% physical. If I get 7%, I'll take that. I think that's better than converting it, because even if we convert, I think 9%, or there's technically, I think, a double that you can do, and then you can get 12%, convert it, and that's still basically getting half of the damage reduced of whatever value. So if it's 12%, you're getting like 6% physical damage reduction if you have max res. It kind of depends on how you build your character, but you can take a lot more physical damage taken as another element. You can get it on Eldritch currency too, but the thing that's going to kill you mostly is going to be a high physical hit that's a crit or a physical spell. There's a little bit less physical spells. Usually it's all elemental, and that's why you get away with playing with a lot of evasion and just max resistances, and sometimes you will die, but that's something if you want to hit past, like, you know, if you want to push to like level 100, which some people do like to hit. A lot of times people just hit like 95-ish, and then the build's pretty much done and they're happy with it. But if you can push harder to get extra levels, to get more stats, it is actually worth it. But nonetheless, this is something that I will want to actually use, and then I'm going to have negative resistances, or negative mana cost on both of these rings, and I'm going to be changing up the build a little bit, as we are doing Ice Shot and Lightning Arrow, and I want to do Ensnaring Arrow, and I want to do a lot more. This new Mana Forged Arrow is actually super OP because it can actually activate all of your abilities, and what we're able to do, and I will show you guys how to do this probably in the next part, and I'll talk about more of the upgrades and stuff, but I didn't want to get so much damage that I one-shot everything, and I can't explain how the boss fight works, because I can't just hold still with this build, because what happens is with Blood Rage, I will actually degen out if I'm not shooting the boss, which is, you know, something that I really do like, and I'm going to have to do a lot more changes to actually get this up and running, but we're going to be doing way more damage. We get like 20 times the DPS. I mean, you saw some of the boss fights that are supposed to be like these special bosses. I mean, I was killing them in like 5 seconds, and if I was to get like 20 times DPS, I might kill them in 1 second. I can't even show you what they look like. So, yeah, we'll be doing some more upgrades and a lot more stuff coming very soon. I actually got another bow. I got so much stuff ready to show for you guys in the next part, but keep in mind, there is infinite scaling in PoE. But anyways, thanks for tuning in for this part. If you guys enjoyed it, drop a like on your way out, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care. Peace. And we'll be doing Cyrus very soon.